Okay, so let me ask you something. Have you ever thought of yourself as an architect? And I don't mean of buildings. I mean of, well, everything else. In our homes, our schools, even just in our conversations, we're constantly designing the worlds that shape us and the people around us. And today, we're going to dive deep into that really powerful idea.
So where do we even start with this whole architect thing? Well, it all begins with the most incredible, most complex structure we know of, the human brain. And this right here, this is the core idea that just changes everything. It completely reframes our role, right? We're not just teachers pouring in information. No, we're architects, carefully, methodically, constructing the very foundation for all future learning. And look, this house comparison, it's surprisingly literal. Think about it. You can't hang pictures or paint the walls before the foundation is poured and the frame is up, right? It's the exact same with the brain. You can't jump straight to complex academic skills without a solid foundation. You've got to start with the most basic circuits first, things like seeing and hearing. Then you can build the framework for more complex skills. And things like reading and math, that's the final decoration you put on a strong, well-built structure.
Okay, so if we're the architects, what's in our toolbox? What are we actually using to build this thing? Well, the first tool, and maybe the most important one, is a super simple back-and-forth interaction that literally builds the brain's foundation.
And just so you know, this isn't some fluffy, feel-good idea. Not at all. It's grounded in some serious neuroscience from folks like the National Scientific Council on the Developing Child. They've done the research and shown just how absolutely critical these early interactions really are.
It's called serve and return. And it's as simple as it sounds. The child serves, they make a sound, they point at something, they give you a look, and then you return that serve by responding, by smiling, by talking back. And here's the amazing part. In that tiny little moment, that split second, a new neural connection is being formed, or an old one is getting stronger. You are literally building their brain, one little interaction at a time.
I mean, think about how simple this is. A toddler points at a dog. You look, you smile, and you say, "Dog." Boom, that's it. In that one little moment, their brain just built a bridge, a connection between the sound dog and that furry four-legged thing they see. That's it. That is the architecture in action.
So what does this mean for you? For us, it means we got to shift our role during playtime. We need to go from being a teacher to being a play partner. You have to resist that urge to jump in and turn their tower of blocks into a counting lesson, or to show them the right way to do it. When you just follow their lead, you're giving them the space to play longer, to explore more, and to build those really crucial neural pathways all on their own terms.
And this brings up a really, really important point. Building a strong foundation is not about drilling a kid with flashcards and facts to memorize.
In fact, the experts at the National Association for the Education of Young Children are super clear about this. They say flashcards just don't work for toddlers. Why? Because rote memorization is actually a pretty low-level skill. The real, strong, lasting foundation, that gets built through meaningful back-and-forth conversations, not by drilling the ABCs over and over again.
Okay, but this whole architect metaphor, it's not just for little kids, not by a long shot. It actually extends to how we can design learning for everyone at any age.
This has actually led to this whole formal concept called the architecture of learning. And it's exactly what it sounds like, a strategic way to design any kind of teaching based on how our brains actually learn. It's all about being intentional, being an architect in how we build knowledge.
So this framework, it's like a blueprint for educators. It gives them a clear three-part plan. First, you've got to understand the core processes of how the brain learns. Second, you use that understanding to create your lesson plans. And third, you use tools to check for growth and see what's working. It's a truly brain-based way to think about teaching.
And this idea of being an intentional designer, it goes way beyond just the lesson plan. Take the Reggio Emilia approach, for instance. It's this really cool educational philosophy where the classroom environment itself is called the third teacher. The layout of the room, the stuff that's available to play with, literally everything is designed to spark curiosity and get kids learning.
And that right there, that brings us from the metaphorical to the very, very literal. Because what if the architecture we've been talking about isn't just happening in our conversations or lesson plans, but in the actual physical buildings we spend our lives in?
So let me just ask you, do you think a building can change your brain? Can the walls, the light, the colors around you actually change how you feel, how you think? Well, the science is in, and the answer is a resounding yes, absolutely.
Welcome to the incredible, fascinating field of neuroarchitecture. It's this amazing field that smashes together neuroscience and architecture to figure out exactly how the built environment, our offices, our homes, our cities, affects our brains, our emotions, and even our behavior.
So to get how this works, we need to talk for a second about something called mirror neurons. These things are wild. They're these brain cells that fire up not only when we do an action, but also when we just watch someone else do the exact same thing. It's basically the science behind empathy.
Okay, now here's where it gets really mind-blowing. Our mirror neurons don't just work for other people. Some research suggests our brains actually simulate the physical state of the objects and spaces around us. You know that feeling of calm you get in a big, open, light-filled room? Or that anxious feeling in a cramped, dark space? That could be your mirror systems firing up, letting you feel a kind of empathy for the architecture itself. How crazy is that?
And this has huge, real-world consequences. I mean, studies have shown that just having sunlight and a view of nature can boost job satisfaction and slash stress. The color blue can actually trigger a calming response in your nervous system. Access to green spaces can lower stress and even improve air quality. Even the simple layout of a building can either make you feel lost and confused or totally at ease. We are so deeply influenced by the architecture of our daily lives.
So, this all brings us back to the main point. Whether you're a parent, an educator, a manager, or really just a person living in the world, you are an architect. You are constantly designing the world around you. So, what are the big takeaways here? The principles of good architecture, it turns out, are pretty universal. First, always build a strong foundation. Focus on those core connections before you pile on the complex skills. Second, create meaningful connections. Prioritize real interaction over just memorizing facts. Third, design supportive environments. This goes for a conversation, a lesson plan, or an actual room. The structure matters. And finally, always remember the human. Our brains and our bodies are constantly, and I mean constantly, reacting to the world we build for ourselves and for others.
So, I'll leave you with this one final thought. Look around you. Your office, your home, the neighborhood you live in, none of it happened by accident. It was all designed. So the real question you have to ask yourself is it building you up? Thanks so much for diving into this with me.